Hi everyone, Banshee here from Tarot for Today, Divine Dabblings with Oberon and Banshee, and welcome to another edition of My Soul Stories. Not sure I have a good title for this one yet to tell you. Maybe I'll come up with one that by the time we post this. But I am dedicating this today to my father's memory. The date is May 23rd, and he passed away when I was 10 years old, just turned 10 a month earlier. He passed away on May 23rd, 1967. And today's story, these soul stories are basically about signs, synchronicities, paranormal experience, unusual things that happen in our lives, that give us messages, or maybe we can't quite comprehend how they happened, why they happened. Maybe we finally realize why they happened because we get a message from them. And I know if I've had weird stories happen to me, like the ones I've been posting here in my Soul Stories segments, so have you. So I encourage you to tell your stories. And today's story is especially poignant because it's all based on what really factually happened. There are some synchronicities involved in this story. And the reason I want to share it with you today is not just because of what I went through, but also because I feel that there is a really strong synchronicity that happened here, and so many things that happened that I don't think I would have turned out the same person I am today if they haven't occurred. So, I'm going to give you a little background about my life back then. Basically, I lived on the east side of Detroit. I was born in 1957. So in the 1960s, I was the east side of Detroit. I went to an all-white Catholic grade school. From what I've heard about our area, it has been dubbed kind of the more well-to-do Polish enclave in Detroit, and I never looked at it that way. I thought we were just kind of normal folk, and never thought about that. But I suppose if I look at it today, I could say yes. I guess I was a person of privilege back in those days, and so being in an all-white neighborhood, I experienced a lot of racist attitudes and mindsets, among the people in our neighborhood. A lot of fear towards blacks. There was just and a real separation. There were no blacks in the neighborhood, etc. So it was a very divided and divisive time in the city of Detroit. And in that backdrop, in May 23rd, my hero, my dad, who was a World War II vet and very proud. So I'm equally glad to be getting out this story on a Memorial Day weekend because he used to march in all of those Memorial Day parades. And one time I got to march with him, and other times I get to watch him proudly as he passed by in the street in his, military veteran's hat and saluting. And he was just really very proud of his service. He really enlisted at the end of the war and was more involved, close to the end of the war, and was more involved in looking for war criminals. He had fluency in 5 different languages, and he had a phony passport. I believe he was doing some espionage kind of work, but the only thing he'll say about the war is he wouldn't talk about what he saw as far as, the Nazi treatment of Jews go and, the Holocaust victims. He just kept saying, I cannot talk about it. He just could not talk about what he saw. I don't believe he saw, he liberated any concentration camps, but I do believe he probably talked to victims. So, at any rate, this is the man I knew most because my mother and father had me later in life, and he was already, when he passed away, he was 54, and you can see I'm still a young little girl there, and off in the corner here, cut off, sorry, I'm trying to get there, is my brother, and my mother's in the background. And when he died, it rocked our world. It just devastated us. And so, my mother, my brother, we were just all not prepared. And so my mother, in particular, her sisters and brothers were really worried about her. And, they kept trying to get her out to do things, and she kept balking at them and wouldn't do anything. And she was kind of wallowing and, getting into some bad habits. So finally, they got her one day to agree to go visit some cousins that lived in Dearborn. And so we went one Sunday morning. As a matter of fact, that was Sunday, July 23rd, so 2 months to the day that my father passed away, 1967. There's a synchronicity right there. And so we drove to Dearborn. We had a great day. From what I remember, everything seemed really good. And we were on our way back. And I'm going to qualify this by telling you that, I was a 10-year-old girl. I'm much older now. My memory is not what it used to be. So I'm going to tell you as much as I can about what I can remember, but a lot has been lost in the clouds of years and stuff stuffed in the brain. So some things have been forgotten, like street names and stuff like that. But anyway, my uncle who was driving, and we had a packed car. I mean, my couple of my aunts went, two of my uncles went, me and my brother went, and my mom. How we fit in a car, but of course we had bigger cars those days. Wasn't a station wagon. I don't know, but we all went. So we're on our way back. And as we're driving, my uncle takes service streets. He didn't take freeways. He was very cautious, old school kind of driver. And we started getting these areas where we saw a lot of black people congregating. And they were moving around fast, and my mother's like, "What's going on? What's going on?" And then suddenly, I heard them saying, and then I could see outdoors, people were screaming and yelling, and there was bigger crowds as we were driving through. And then all of a sudden, people started hitting our car and pounding on the car and yelling at us. And my mom's like, "What are they doing?" And I'm sure there might have been some N words that flew. And meanwhile, in the back, we were scared, and the family was telling us, get down, put your head down. But I was kind of trying to look up, and that's where, I remember seeing some street signs, but I'm not really sure enough to tell you for certain where we were. For some reason, I keep thinking Livernois was there, but I am not sure. So I did see a building on fire, and people running around and throwing things. And that's when they were telling me to get down. And then they were pounding on the hood in the windows of the car, which we had shut. And then finally, this bottle was thrown at our car, hit the front window, didn't break it, and rolled up over the car. I remember that clearly. And I was just like, shaking and scared and not understanding a single thing that I was seeing. And then finally, this black man came along. He was maybe middle-aged. He wasn't young. And he was a little taller, I remember. And he just kept yelling into the car, "What are you doing here? What are you doing here? You have to get out of here. You need to go home." And then he kept putting his hand up like this and saying, "There's women and children in this car. Let this car through. Let this car pass." We were kind of blocked in by other cars too and things. There was like all kinds of congestion and scary stuff. But he literally walked with our car with his hand up, trying to ward people away from our car. And as we went through. And then we got through and we got home. And that was the very first day of the 1967 Detroit Rebellion, which has been popularly known, as a riot, a Detroit riot. But I refuse to use those words or that word for a number of reasons. One is that, there was so much inequity in those days, and there was so much segregation, and most importantly, there was so much police brutality going on. So there is no way in my mind that I'm thinking that this was, a riot. I think it was a rebellion against everything that had been building up to that point. And you know what? I'm only white. I am not black. I cannot speak for people who lived during that time on the other side of this, and I won't because, that is not my place. I can only tell you what I saw and I experienced that year. And thus far, I can tell you, I saw violence, and then I saw compassion and caring and somebody trying to protect us and get us through. So it was really kind of a situation I had to process. And so we got home, and the riot lasted for, as long as it did. I can't remember, it was 3 days, 5 days. And I actually saw military uh, trucks. I don't remember if it was a tank exactly. I think it was a tank I saw. I have slight recollection of that, but there were definitely military vehicles that went down one of the main roads near us going towards downtown. So it was terrifying times, and you could see smoke in the air still from where we lived. Nobody wanted to go anywhere. Everybody was scared. And in my neighborhood, of course, everybody was, the N words are flying and how terrible these people are and all of this stuff. This was my culture that I grew up in. So let's flash forward a little further to August of that year. And August of that year, I was going to be starting the 5th grade. And it's kind of unusual for the principal of your school to call you into the principal's office before the school semester starts. So, but I got this call. My mother got this call and told me that the principal wanted to see me in her office, and my friend, one of my good friends, and 2 other students from my class. Well, one other student from my class. And I'm like, well, this is really odd. And me and my friend, we walked there together because we did not know what this could be about. And so we end up going there, and our principal talked to us and said, it's going to be a great year this year. She goes, and I want to introduce you to your new friend who you will be walking to school with every day. And she brought in the first Black student to our school, whose name I will not mention, tall girl for 5th grade, taller than me, up to about, I'm a little shorty now, but up to about 4th grade, I was pretty average in height to taller for my age. So this person was taller than me, and I don't know what we thought at that time. I think we were all kind of in shock, and just said hi, and yeah. And then she said, you'll meet her on the corner at this time and you'll walk together. And so, as the friends started talking later, all of us, that were going to do this were okay about it, which really makes me think. I wonder, we probably were all on the same route. This girl was walking to school, but there are other students too, I'm sure, that were. So I can't help but wonder if the nuns tried to pick people they thought would be more open-minded to walk with the first Black student to our school, with none of us having experiences talking much to Black people. And so, that first day rolls around and we meet her and we're walking to school and everything's fine. But as we're walking up to but although it was quiet, because I think a lot of us just didn't know what to say. Maybe we're afraid to talk. And so, but we walked and, we got to school. And when we got there were cars with parents in it screaming and yelling the N-word. They were calling this girl, who was a 5th grader, mind you, a bitch, a whore. How dare you come here, you slut. And I remember that parents, like literally right in front of her, were yanking their children away and taking them out of the school. And also one woman spit on her, and another. Now, this is the other part of the story that one of my friends disputes, but that friend that disputes this and doesn't remember it, was not part of the walking party. So I don't really think she saw it. But one woman came up to her and slapped her right across the face. So what was happening through all of this in my mind and in this girl's mind? Well, you know what? I can't say what was happening in her mind, but I can tell you this. I looked at her face and she was the word I would say is stoic. She was stoic. She seemed strong to me. She barely even batted an eye. She was strong. She did not say anything. She stood her ground and she kept moving forward. And right there, I was like a basket case. I was mortified. I was appalled. I was shocked that they were treating this person that way. And suddenly I felt, what are we doing? You know, uh, needless to say, that whole experience put me on a path that changed my life forever. Because, I would say to you that that walking to school did not end there. It kept going, of course, through that year. And during that time, there were times that sometimes we'd be talking and the N word would slip out of one of our mouths, including my own. And how horrible I would feel. Suddenly there would be this silence, like we all knew. We should not have said that. Why did we say that? And, you know, I think that racism and deal tolerance is things that you constantly have to work on. It's so easy to fall into I am better than you mentality. But I tried to put myself in the shoes of that girl. I never knew what she would think, but what I kept thinking to myself is, how would I feel if that was me? What would I feel like? How could I do it? Could I stand there with the stoicism that I saw her stand there with? How could I deal with this? And I think the process of me always putting myself in the shoes of the other person, even though, please, I will never know or experience that kind of intolerance the way Black people experience it. It's like, it was mind changing and it was altering of my whole life forever. I never looked at people the same way again. And to this day, I will not judge people based on the color of their skin, their religion. I base it on what I see and feel from them as an individual. And I try to live my life that way. And I know I slip up like, many people will slip up. But you know what? I want to thank that person. And also, when I think back of all the different things I saw that year to formulate the kind of person I became. Now, most of the people that were on that walk, at least I know of one for sure, I think they were radically changed forever. One of the girls became that Black girl's best friend throughout the rest of the school, till 8th grade. We kind of drifted apart, but that person ended up playing softball on one of my teams that I organized for Parks and Recreation. And so we kind of kept in touch, but we were a little bit more distant. But that person changed my life forever. And that experience in the riot changed my life forever because everything is not black and white. I mean, there are good people and bad people regardless. I mean, I don't think I have to preach this, and that's really not what this is about. But what it's about is that synchronicity of going through the riot and seeing that and being helped through by this Black man. And then I am being called to walk a Black student to school, a month later, you know? And so I am so grateful for that experience and being able to process it that way. So, because there are people who went to the same school as I did who to this day are just, I would call them racist. And some of them I know quite well, but I'm sorry, I would still call you racist because you are, period. So, it's like, it's amazing to me how some people, can go through the same experience, see the same kind of thing, at least part of it, and yet they don't take it in the same way. But I also think it's because I had that riot experience too that kind of hammered it all home. And so, through years, I was on sports teams after that where we played Black teams. There was some racial arguments between the white and Black players. I got to witness some other things and process some other things along the way and make some missteps as well. And, when I raised my son, I raised him so that he would have an experience that I didn't have, from the early days, that he would be living in an environment that was more mixed race, and he would be going to schools that, had more people of color and ethnicities than I had experienced. And so we did that. We did send him to a private school, but it was in the city of Detroit. And when he graduated from there, he wanted to go to a similar, it was kind of a hybrid school between this private school and a regular Detroit high school that was on more of the west side of Detroit. And he had to take buses there every day, early in the morning, standing for buses, coming home. Sometimes we would pick him up, sometimes he would take the bus home. And he went to, I think it was like an 80% or more black high school. And he met there the love of his life, and they married. And I have a beautiful granddaughter because of this. And I keep thinking to myself, how much would my life and his life be different if I didn't experience and do what I did? You know, and I am not taking credit for the child he is today, because in my mind, he is so much more tolerant and teaches me lessons all the time, about how to treat people. And I'm proud of that. I mean, I know that I've had a role in raising him this way, but I know he became his own person because of the experiences I provided to him. It's kind of like everything went full circle for me. And to see this in my life and to see him happily married, and we have such a blended now family, oh, I'm just amazed. So I wanted to share this story with you because it's a very important one. And also, you should think sometimes about what are those turning points that you've had in your life that have made you a completely different person, a better person. Think about it and share your stories with me. Share your stories with others, they matter. And thank you again for spending time with me and hearing me out. I'm starting to tear up, so I'm going to let it go at that. And stay tuned sometime in the near future for another soul story. This is Banshee signing off for now. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.